위한 병화와 싸우고 있는 전 세계의 모든 이들에게 따뜻한 위로의 마음을 보내며 진심으로 마음속 깊이 모든 사람들의 건강이 제발 지켜지고 행복과 웃음이 지켜지기를 간절히 바랍니다. 사랑하는 남녘의 동포들에게도 따뜻한 이 마음을 정히 보내며 하루빨리 이 보건 위기가 극복되고 북과 남이 다시 두 손을 마주 잡는 날이 찾아오기를 기원합니다. 동지들, 오늘 우리 모두는 일심전력하여 마련한 값진 성과와 노력적 열매들을 안고 10월의 경축광장에 모였습니다. 우리가 여기에 오기까지는 정말 쉽지 않았습니다. 간고한 투쟁의 연속이었고 수없이 많은 경난들을 이겨내야 했습니다. 지나온 우리 당의 75성상이 다 그러하였지만 특별히 올해는 정초부터 하루하루 한 걸음 한 걸음이 예상치 않았던 엄청난 도전과 장애로 하여 참으로 간구하고 힘겨웠습니다. 우리는 그 모든 것을 용감히 이겨내고 자랑스럽고 떳떳한 마음으로 뜻깊은 이 자리에 섰습니다. 세인이 경탄할 이 화폭 자체가 우리를 괴롭히고 막아나섰던 온갖 재앙들이 제압되고 우리가 내세웠던 정의로운 투쟁 목표들이 빛나게 달성되었음을 보여주고 있습니다. 친애하는 동지들, 오늘 우리는 우리 당의 75번째 생일을 성대히 맞이하고 있습니다. 세상에는 우리처럼 자기 당의 생일을 전체 인민이 기쁨의 명절로 대경사의 날로 성대히 경축하는 나라는 없습니다. 온 나라의 마음이 뜨겁게 굽이치는 이처럼 벅차고 환희로운 밤 이 자리에 서고 보니 전체 인민에게 무슨 말씀부터 드렸으면 좋을지 모르겠습니다. 우리 당이 걸어온 영광 넘친 75년사를 갈피갈피 돌이켜보는 이 시각, 오늘 이 자리에 서면 무슨 말부터 할까 많이 생각도 해보았지만 진정 우리 인민들에게 터놓고 싶은 마음속 고백, 마음속 진정은 고맙습니다 이 한마디뿐입니다.
We're going to be providing some food for the young women that we know Manchester very emotional. They've seen difficult times, realizing that the soldiers of North Korea have been working very, very hard on various projects. We're going to go back to him right now.
정말 고맙습니다. 이 말씀은 꼭 드리고 싶었습니다. 한 명의 악성 비루스 피해자도 없이 모두가 건강해 주셔서 정말 고맙습니다. 세상을 무섭게 휩쓸고 있는 몹쓸 전염병으로부터 이 나라의 모든 이들을 끝끝내 지켜냈다는 이 사실, 우리 당이 응당마땅히 해야 할 일이었고 응당한 성과라 해야겠지만도 왜서인지 지켜냈다는 이 감격의 기쁨에 눈앞이 흐려지고 모두가 건강하신 모습을 배우니 고맙습니다 이 말밖에 할 말을 더 찾을 수가 없습니다. 세상이 놀라지 않을 수 없는 오늘의 이 승리는 우리 인민들 스스로가 이루어낸 위대한 승리입니다. 우리 당에 있어서 인민들 한 사람 한 사람의 생명은 그 무엇보다 소중하며 전체 인민이 건재하고 건강해야 당도 있고 국가도 있고 이 땅의 모든 것이 다 있습니다. 그런데 이 세계에는 귀중한 우리 인민의 삶을 위협하고 해치려는 불안정한 요소가 너무나도 많습니다. 그래서 사실 연초부터 세계적인 보건위기가 도래하고 주변 상황도 좋지 않아 고민도 컸고 두려움도 컸습니다. 허나 우리 인민은 억척같이 뻗치고 일어나 당과 국가가 취하는 조치들을 절대적으로 지지하고 따라주며 자신들의 운명을 완강히 지켜냈을 뿐 아니라 활기 넘친 모습으로 모진 고난과 시련을 강하게 이겨냈습니다. 서로서로 걱정해주고 위해주고 감싸 안아주는 아름다운 인민, 이런 인민이 높은 애국심과 고도의 자각성을 가지고 서로 협력하며 살아가는 사회주의가 아니었다면 무서운 재앙을 막아내지 못하였을 것입니다. 우리 인민 모두가 스스로 방역의 주체가 되어 국가와 자기들 스스로를 지키고 우리 아이들을 지키기 위한 투쟁에 한 사람같이 떨쳐나섰기에 모든 것이 부족하고 뒤떨어진 나라의 방역 부분이 일도속에 되었고 남들 같으면 상상할 수도 없는 방역 안정 형세를 유지할 수 있었습니다. 아직 풍족하게 살지는 못해도 화목한 대가정을 이루고 단 한 명의 악성 비루스 피해자도 없이 모두가 건강하니 이것이 얼마나 고맙고 얼마나 큰 힘이 되는지 모르겠습니다. 국가가 당하는 어려운 상황을 깊이 이해해주고 자기 집일처럼 떠맡는 고마운 인민도 이 세상에 우리 인민밖에는 없습니다. 지금 이 행성의 가혹하고 장기적인 제재 때문에 모든 것이 부족한 속에서도 비상방역도 해야 하고 혹심한 자연 피해도 복구해야 하는 엄청난 도전과 난관에 직면한 나라는 우리나라뿐입니다. 이 모든 시련은 두말할 것 없이 우리 매 가정, 매 국민들에게 무거운 짐으로, 아픔으로 되고 있습니다. 하지만 오히려 가사보다 국사를 앞에 놓고 국가가 겪는 고난을 10가지든 100가지든 함께 걸머지며 성실한 땀과 노력으로 이 나라를 굳건히 받드는 고마운 애국자들이 바로 우리 인민입니다. 그래서 우리 당은 나라의 형편을 터놓으면 언제나 산악같이 일떠서는 인민을 믿고 인민에게 의거하여 모든 국난을 타개해 나가고 있는 것입니다. 늘 우리 인민들은 우리 당에 고마워했지만 정녕 고마움의 인사를 받으셔야 할 주인들은 바로 위대한 우리 인민입니다. 우리 인민은 75성상 일편단심 우리 당을 받들고 성스러운 혁명 위협을 자기의 피와 땀을 아낌없이 서슴없이 바쳐 지켜주었습니다. 가장 간고하고도 시련에 찬 혁명의 길을 헤쳐온 우리 당이 이 피어린 여정을 승리와 영광으로 수놓을 수 있은 근본 비결은 다름 아닌 우리 인민이 당을 진심으로 믿어주고 따르며 우리 당의 위협을 지켜주었기 때문입니다. 언제나 현명한 스승이 되어 지혜와 슬기를 주었고 무한한 힘과 용기를 안겨주었으며 결사적으로 옹의하고 성심으로 받들어주며 당의 구상과 노선을 빛나는 현실로 만들어준 역사의 전능한 창조자인 위대한 우리 인민을 떠나서 어찌 우리 당의 영광 넘친 75년사에 대하여 한순간인들 생각할 수 있겠습니까? 당에서 대거조를 호소하면 천리마를 타고 호응했고 대건소를 작전하면 속도전으로 화답했으며 당의 결심을 몰부를 가림없이 무조건 실천해내고야만 하는 위대한 인민이 항상 곁에 있었기에 우리 당은 언제나 든든하였고 어떤 국경 속에서도 이 땅에 기적의 년년을 새겨올 수 있었습니다. 나는 진함없는 충효심과 굴할 줄 모르는 투지, 성실한 노력으로서 세상 풍파를 다 뚫고 넘으며 위대한 10월 명절을 승리의 단상에 떠올린 우리 인민의 모습에서 앞으로 75년이 아니라 750년, 7500년이라도 당을 따르고 지켜줄 하늘같은 힘을 온몸으로 뿌듯이 받아안게 됩니다. 동지들, 하늘 같고 바다 같은 우리 인민의 너무도 크나큰 믿음을 받아안기만 하면서 언제나 제대로 한번 보답이 따르지 못해 정말 면목이 없습니다. 제가 전체 인민이 신임 속에 위대한 수령님과 위대한 장군님의 위협을 받들어 이 나라를 이끄는 중책을 지니고 있지만 아직 노력과 정성이 부족하여 우리 인민들이 생활상 어려움에서 벗어나지 못하고 있습니다. 그럼에도 우리 인민들은 언제나 나를 믿고 나를 절대적으로 신뢰하고 나의 선택과 결심을 그 무엇이든 지지하고 받들어주고 있습니다. 설사 그것이 더 큰 고생을 각오해야 하는 것이라 할지라도 나와 우리 당에 대한 인민의 믿음은 언제나 무조건적이고 확고부동한 것으로 되고 있습니다. 이렇듯 강렬하고 진정 어린 믿음과 고무 격려는 나에게 있어서 그 어떤 명예와도 바꿀 수 없고 수억만 금에도 비길 수 없는 가장 소중한 제부이며 두려움과 불가능을 모르게 하는 무한대한 힘입니다. 이 세상 그 누구도 바랄 수 없는 최상최대의 신임이 있기에 나는 멸사복무의 사명감과 의지를 가다듬으며 무수한 도전들을 주저없이 맞받아 나갈 수 있었고 전쟁까지 각오해야 하는 결사전에도 나설 수 있었으며 사상 초유의 대재앙에도 강력히 대처할 수 있었습니다. 이런 훌륭한 우리 인민을 섬기고 모시고 투쟁하는 것을 무상의 영광으로 간직하겠습니다. 나는 우리 인민의 하늘같은 믿음을 지키는 길에 설사 몸이 찢기고 부서진다 해도 그 믿음만은 목숨까지 바쳐서라도 무조건 지킬 것이고 그 믿음에 끝까지 충실할 것을 다시 한번 이 자리에서 엄숙히 확언합니다. 존경하는 나라 전체 인민들 여러분, 정말 고맙습니다. 우리 수령님과 장군님의 마음까지 합쳐 온 나라 전체 인민들에게 경건한 마음으로 고마움에 차 넘치는 진정 정중히 삼가 올립니다. 동지들, 우리 인민을 억척으로 지키고 더 높이 떠받들며 부름없이 잘 살게 하는 것은 나와 우리 당의 제일 사명이고 확고부동한 의지입니다. 우리 당은 이미 우리 인민이 존엄이고 생명인 사회주의를 굳건히 수호하고 우리 인민이 영원히 전쟁을 모르는 땅에서 자자손손 번영할 수 있게 평화수호를 위한 최강의 군력을 비축해 놓았습니다. 위풍당당히 정렬한 오늘의 이 열병 대오는 조선노동당이 자기의 혁명군대를 어떻게 키웠는지 또한 그 군대의 위력이 얼만큼 강한지 똑바로 알 수 있게 할 것입니다. 불과 5년 전 바로 이 장소에서 진행된 당 창건 이른돌 경축 열병식과 대비해보면 누구나 잘 알 수 있겠지만 우리 군사력의 현대성은 많이 더 변했으며 그 발전의 속도를 누구나 쉽게 가늠해 볼 수 있을 것입니다. 우리는 자기 당의 혁명 사상으로 튼튼히 무장하고 자기 혁명利益에 전적으로 복무하는 충실하고 강력한 국방과학기술 대군과 군수노동계급을 가지고 있습니다. 우리의 군사력은 그 누구도 넘보거나 견주지 못할 만큼 발전하고 변했습니다. 우리가 직면하고 있거나 맞다둘 수 있는 그 어떤 군사적 위협도 충분히 통제 관리할 수 있는 억제력을 갖추었습니다. 우리의 군사력은 우리식, 우리의 요구대로, 우리의 시간표대로 그 발전 속도와 질과 량이 변해가고 있습니다. 우리 당은 우리 국가와 인민의 자주권과 생존권을 건드리거나 위협을 줄 수 있는 세력은 선제적으로 제압할 수 있는 군사적 능력을 제일 확실하고 튼튼한 국가 방위력으로 규정했으며, 그를 실천할 수 있는 군사력 보유에 모든 것을 다해왔고 지금 이 순간에도 부단한 갱신 목표들을 점령해 가고 있습니다. 우리는 적대 세력들에 의해 지속적으로 가중되는 핵 위협을 포괄하는 모든 위험한 시도들과 위협적 행동들을 억제하고 통제 관리하기 위하여 자의적 정당 방위 수단으로서의 전쟁 억제력을 계속 강화해 나갈 것입니다. 국가의 자주권과 생존권을 지키고 지역의 평화를 수호하는 데 이바지할 우리의 전쟁 억제력이 결코 남용되거나 절대로 선제적으로 쓰이지는 않겠지만, 만약 그 어떤 세력이든 우리 국가의 안전을 다쳐놓는다면, 우리를 겨냥해 군사력을 사용하려 든다면 나는 우리의 가장 강력한 공격적인 힘을 선제적으로 총동원하여 응징할 것입니다. 나는 우리의 군사력이 그 누구를 겨냥하게 되는 것을 절대로 원치 않습니다. 우리는 그 누구를 겨냥해서 우리의 전쟁 억제력을 키우는 것이 아님을 분명히 합니다. 우리 스스로를 지키자고 키우는 것뿐입니다. 만약 힘이 없다면 두 주먹을 부러지고도 흐르는 눈물과 피만 닦아야 할 것입니다. 우리 당은 강력한 군사력으로 나라의 주권과 우리 영토의 믿음직한 안전을 보장하며 국가와 인민의 영원한 안녕과 평화와 미래를 수호해 나갈 것입니다. 동지들, 조선노동당의 혁명사상으로 무장하고 조국과 인민에게 무한히 중요하며 우리 인민의 힘과 넋이 깃든 강력한 최신 무기들로 장비한 혁명 무력이 있기에 그 어떤 침략 세력도 절대로 신성한 우리 국가를 넘볼 수 없으며 조선인민의 앞길을 감히 막지 못합니다. 이제 남은 것은 우리 인민이 더는 고생을 모르고 유족하고 문명한 생활을 마음껏 누리게 하는 것입니다. 우리 당은 인민들의 복리를 증진시키고 더 많은 혜택을 안겨줄 우월한 정책과 시책들을 변함없이 실시하고 끊임없이 늘려나갈 것이며, 인민들이 꿈속에서도 그려보는 부흥번영의 이상사회를 최대로 앞당겨 올 것입니다. 지금까지 우리 당은 혹독한 고난 속에서 인민들과 생사운명을 같이 하면서, 그리고 우리 인민의 단결된 힘을 체득하는 과정을 통하여 앞으로 우리가 무엇을 해야 하는가에 대하여 잘 알게 되었습니다. 조선노동당 제8차 대회는 그 실현을 위한 방략과 구체적인 목표를 제시하게 될 것이며, 인민의 행복을 마련해 나가는 우리 당의 투쟁은 이제 새로운 단계로 이행하게 될 것입니다. 우리가 일떠설수록 온갖 반동 세력들이 더 기승을 부리고 예상치 않았던 난관들도 닥쳐들 수 있지만, 이때까지 우리가 겪은 시련에 비하면 아무것도 아니며 우리에게는 그 모든 것을 격파할 힘이 있고 자신심이 있습니다. 장구한 투쟁 노정에서 다져진 당과 인민 대중의 일심단결이 있고, 우리 사회주의가 키워내고 마련한 인재 역량과 자립에 미쳐는 분명 우리의 전진을 추동하고 가속하는 강력한 힘으로 작용할 것입니다. 남들이 겪어보지 못한 무수한 고난과 시련의 고비들을 넘어오면서 남들이 엄두도 낼 수 없는 모든 것을 다 해낸 우리 당과 인민은 더 큰 용기와 신심, 비상한 열정과 각오를 가지고 새로운 발전과 번영회로의 진군을 시작할 것입니다.
Young's speech the moment. As you probably saw earlier,
정권기관,
quite emotional. We're just going to go back to him now.
우리 인민을 위하여 인민들에게 더 좋은 내일을 안겨주기 위하여 무진 애를 쓰며 정성을 다해 일해 나가도록 더더욱 엄격한 요구성을 제기하고 투쟁하도록 하겠습니다. 우리 인민의 리상은 위대하며 그 리상이 실현될 날은 꼭 옵니다. 위대한 그 리상을 실현함에 총력을 다해 나감으로써 사회주의 건설의 더 높은 목표를 점령해 나가는 길에서 누구나 체감할 수 있는 혁신과 발전, 실질적인 변화를 이룩하도록 하겠습니다. 동지들, 우리는 강해졌으며 시련 속에서 더욱 강해지고 있습니다. 시간은 우리 편에 있습니다. 모두 다 사회주의 휴양한 미래를 향하여 새로운 승리를 쟁취하기 위하여 힘차게 싸워 나갑시다.
So Kim Jong-un is talking about the grave economic problems afflicting the DPRK right now, or North Korea. COVID-19 problems, the country is totally isolated. He's back. We will continue. One moment.
고마움의 인사를 삼가드립니다. 그리고 변함없이 우리 당을 믿어주시는 마음들의
Let's go after Pyongyang. Just a reminder, this is taped late last night, probably around almost 1 a.m. I'd say by this stage, given the tapes been rolling almost an hour since the broadcast started. Now, Kim Jong-un's speech is over. I'm going to pass the mic over to Jong-min Kim, who is our sole correspondent here at NK News. She's been carefully transcribing everything so far and can give us a brief summary of what's being said.
I had a rough transcription just now. The main theme of today's Kim Jong-un speech was how much hardship North Korea has been going through this year, including COVID-19 prevention efforts, flood damages, and multiple typhoons. And they also mentioned sanctions, that amid all this, because of sanctions, their economy suffered and their people suffered. But that Kim Jong-un and the Workers' Party of Korea will work hard to bring the quote-unquote ideal society for the North Korean people. That's Ri Chun-hee. Yes, the main theme was how much hardship they have been going through, and Kim Jong-un led his speech starting with how sorry he feels for the soldiers of the country. If you have been following North Korean news for the past few weeks and months, because North Korea suffered from typhoons and floodings, Kim Jong-un ordered the soldiers to actually go to those places to reconstruct the towns, which they claim that they actually did in some places. So he was thanking them, and he was shedding tears for how much hard work their soldiers have been, how much effort their soldiers have been pouring on these projects, and how it aches him that they couldn't be here because they were still at the recovery projects. Another emotional moment for Kim Jong-un's speech that evening was that he said that he's so grateful for the North Korean people for staying alive and not contracting COVID-19. He claimed that no North Korean person has contracted COVID-19, and he was very much relieved that the country was not the country did not suffer actual confirmed COVID-19 cases. Also, if you have been following news, you could see that WHO has been actually just echoing North Korean government's argument that there has been no confirmed cases despite thousands of testings going on in North Korea. Another important part was that Kim Jong-un actually mentioned South Korea. It only has been weeks since Kim Jong-un personally apologized for the death of the South Korean worker in North Korean waters. Although he did not mention that incident, he said something very similar to the letter he sent to President Moon in early September. In the speech for the October 10th anniversary, this time he mentioned that he hopes everybody around the world stays healthy and overcomes COVID-19, including South Korea, and how he extends his warm greetings to the compatriots in South Korea. And he hopes for a day that South Korea and North Korea could hold hands again. After they overcome all that, that kind of warm message towards South Korea. It has been a while. We saw something like that since Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong-un met before on the Paektu Mountain.
So right now we're seeing the flags being raised through parades every single year. So it's a sign that the actual military parade aspect is about to begin imminently. As Kim Jong-un looks down, it looks like with Hyun Sung-wol, the picture's a little blurry, but yeah, he's ready to observe the parade. You can see some pilots here. This is very unusual to see these edited scenes of pilots getting ready to get into use. Are these MiG-29s? Can you fill us in?
Yes, these are MiG-29s, the North Korean MiG-29s, and I also saw some Sukhoi 25s. Those are basically the two most advanced aircraft which North Korea possesses. And they then shot past some Romeo-class submarines, which are Soviet-era submarines, which are still some of the largest submarines the North Koreans use.
So yeah, it looks like they're showing the tape of the pilots getting ready, because about 15-20 minutes into these parades we normally see flybys, low flying aircraft. You'll get the MiGs and the Sukhois doing a low fly formation, and then normally you'll see some propeller planes blowing smoke in colors, or depicting the numbers significantly evolved compared to the last two military parades I've seen. Not just the way the square has been renovated and is being lit in a much brighter fashion than we've ever seen, but also the cinematography. It almost seems like this has been done with a kind of Hollywood style in mind. Ankit, have you any thoughts on how this is going to be going down in DC with viewers perhaps like Trump who might be tuning in?
That's true. It is around the American president's time to wake up early in the day. I suspect the news will filter in as the day goes on. Given that this is taking place early, a lot of Washington will be waking up on a Saturday to learn about whatever North Korea is about to show off. But I suspect it will have the effect of raising North Korea on the diplomatic agenda here. It has started to drift down, particularly as the U.S. enters the final stretch of the election. But if Kim Jong-un was hoping to have that effect, I suspect this intriguingly produced parade will have that effect.
So one thing we've been wondering about today, as the day went on and video was still absent, we were wondering, is it possible the North Koreans may not actually release this video? Would it be more in Kim Jong-un's interest to be ambiguous about military capabilities so close to a US election? What kind of strategic tactical gains in DPRK US relations do you think the North Koreans will get, Ankit, by revealing significant military capabilities, potentially new strategic weapons, so close to an election where presumably they want to try and keep warm relations with Donald Trump, but we don't know. So yeah, I'm just curious, what's the value that North Korea gets from this with the US DPRK relationship?
I mean, I think the logic for diplomacy is similar to the purpose of conducting missile tests in 2017. It's a reminder that North Korea continues to expand and refine its nuclear forces, and if the U.S. is interested in stopping that progress or stopping that growth, then they will come to the table and do a deal with North Korea that will cap that, and whatever North Korea wants in exchange for that, it should get effectively. So what we're seeing with this parade, I mean, if there is an external purpose, I mean, I happen to think a lot of what we're seeing today does have a very strong internal messaging component, as we just saw from Kim Jong-un. But for the purposes of the outside world and for the United States, it is a reminder that the longer the U.S. waits, that North Korea will continue to grow. That time is not on the side of the United States.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I think you've got a comment here.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting to note that these vehicles you're seeing the North Korean general standing in, these are being shown for the ramping up production of such armored vehicles, which are also seeing in a lot of Western countries, of course, or modern militaries across the world.
And we're also seeing white horses. Jongmin, any comments on that?
Horses, which showed up in the trade data, and maybe that points to how they were actually using that for the military parade. We are not sure as of now if they used those horses before. Anybody who can comment on that?
Yeah, I've not seen the white horses, I believe, in the military parades before, so that does look like it could be a new development. Now, you'll have heard us talking earlier on about Kim Jong-un being emotional about the state of the economy, what's going on in North Korea broadly. Just for those of you who are unfamiliar, this has been a really tough year for North Korea. We've seen the country under chronic sanctions since 2017, which former US ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, in 2017 said would basically prevent North Korea exporting almost 90% of the value of its entire normal exports. On top of that, we have the COVID outbreak, which is stopping all transport, cargo, to a large extent, in and out of the country. That's having a huge impact on North Korea's economy. We know that's effectively stopped the Chinese tourism industry, which just a couple of years ago, in fact, last year we estimated around between 300 to 600,000 Chinese tourists a year. And on top of that, two other sets of problems. We've had really grave weather this year in Korea, particularly in August. And we've seen 3 back-to-back typhoons, 2 of which really hit the north pretty badly. We saw flooding. And if that wasn't enough, we've seen Kim Jong-un several times this year complain and berate his own officials for economic mismanagement, corruption, things like that. So you add this all together, and there's no end in sight right now for COVID or the sanctions. And you can start to understand why Kim Jong-un may be upset to a degree about the performance of his leadership, because just 4 or 5 years ago, the 2016 7th Congress, Kim Jong-un was talking up a new 5-year economic plan. We were expecting to see that pay dividends for the North Korean economy. It's not worked out very well. A lot of large state economic projects have stalled or are frozen in incomplete states. And the really interesting thing, I guess, will be to see how, if those problems translate into military problems. Ankit, we haven't seen missile tests for a long time. Do you think that could be potentially due to these economic problems translating into obstacles for the military?
Not necessarily. They simply might not be in a position where the developmental advantages are worthwhile with testing right now. We should note that we have seen a resumed testing campaign beginning in 2019 and carrying into early this year. But notably, that has involved the testing of systems that North Korea has presented to the outside world as non-nuclear, with the exception of one test of a submarine-launched ballistic missile. When North Korea does test, it anticipates, particularly of the strategic long-range systems, it anticipates external costs, potentially in the form of sanctions. The Trump administration, I think, showed that after the SLBM tests last October, that wasn't really a risk anymore for North Korea. So it is possible that they may return to testing. But just in terms of the calendar, what we notice in the Kim Jong-un era is that testing tends to wrap up, with a few exceptions, by October. So the months of November, December, and ultimately January tend to be a little bit slower for missile testing.
Okay, and tell us what you're seeing. There's lots of new military capabilities here. What's standing out to you so far?
Yeah, really. From the lineup that they were just showing us, I can see well, a variety of types that have never before been shown. So absolutely tons of the roughly 600 millimeter oversized rocket systems, which they've shown tested a year or two back. But also new air defense systems, what seemed like new main battle tanks, really all across the range, new and very modern, well, modern looking equipment.
Am I right in thinking the camouflage on some of these has changed as well? Or is it the light?
That might be the lighting. As far as I can tell, this army drab green is pretty common.
And my colleague Collins Verco, who you can follow on Twitter, he says he spotted some Pukguksong 3 solid fuel missiles. Has anyone else seen those?
Had not spotted them yet, but perhaps.
I spotted a range of Pukguksong 2 medium-range ballistic missiles. Those are the ones that have been in mass production since the diplomacy began with North Korea. So I'm actually quite curious to see how many we'll see. It looked like to me they might have as many as at least 8 in a lineup. That wouldn't be shocking, but I'm curious to see if there's more.
And these are important because which city do they have in range that most people don't think about, Ankit?
Yeah, so the Pukguksong 2 is basically a system that allows North Korea to hold all U.S. facilities in South Korea and Japan's main 4 islands, so not Okinawa, at risk. And so, the North Koreans have conducted military exercises with the Pukguksong 2 and missiles of similar range, showing that, they have the capabilities to strike specific facilities, including Iwakuni, a base in Japan where the U.S. Marine Corps is based. So it is a significant capability. It is a solid propellant missile, so it's much more responsive compared to North Korea's older liquid propellant Scud missiles. So it is a capability that that was one of the first times they showed an image of the Earth taken from the reentry vehicle of the Pukguksong 3 of the Pukguksong 2. And you could see part of China. I'm not sure that was part of the messaging, but yes, I believe it was around the time of the first Belt and Road Forum in Beijing. So it was inopportune timing for China.
Yeah, I seem to remember some other tests that year which took place on the dates of Chinese political gatherings. I think one was something relating to leaders in Africa. I was in Beijing at the time, and I remember Tiananmen Square was closed off in anticipation of this gathering, and we got to the airport the day after the test, and I remember reading on the plane back to Seoul, I think it was People's Daily, and there was zero coverage whatsoever of this North Korean missile test that had clashed on the exact same day as this political gathering in Beijing. So yeah, those were the days when relations between China and North Korea not so good. We have been hearing, though, very unverified reports in the Daily NK, which is another publication focusing on North Korea here in Seoul, that while no foreign diplomats are being allowed to attend this event, that there has been a very special exception made for Chinese diplomats who have apparently been allowed to enter the country without going through the traditional quarantine processes, who have only been tested on their, with a thermometer, etc. As I said, it's completely unverified. All of our sources have not been able to confirm this, but if true, it would be reflective of a really warming relationship that we've seen between China and North Korea since the outbreak of diplomacy in January 2018. You'll remember in 2017 there was a lot of tension around the peninsula, and when January kicked off in 2018, the first place Kim Jong-un went to visit was China, to visit Xi Jinping. I think he was there for his actual birthday around January 8th, 2018. And that all culminated in President Xi Jinping visiting Pyongyang in June last year, which was a really very significant visit with lots of pomp and splendor. And yeah, the relationship has sort of been evolving ever since. Jongmin, you've told us a little bit about the South-North relationship. How would you describe it at the moment?
in general. Well, we should remember that there was a very important escalation of tensions in June when they blew up the Inter-Korean Liaison Office. After that, although Kim Jong-un suspended military actions against South Korea, which was, by the way, it seemed like Kim Yo-jong's project, it was pretty quiet for a few months. But then just last month, a few weeks ago, because of the shooting and killing incident in the North Korean waters, it almost escalated again. But right afterwards, because the United Front Department, which is in charge of South Korea affairs in North Korea, they explained their version of the story. Although it was a little bit different, it involved some apologies in South Korea. Just day after they issued very strongly worded statement, they reverted back to saying that they take Kim Jong-un's apology sincerely. After that, it was just some domestic nitty-gritty fights inside South Korea, whether or not the South Korean military acted fast enough when the South Korean government worker somehow floated into the North Korean waters, and it's still contested if he was indeed defecting to North Korea or not, as the North Korean side did not explain that part of the story. While I have the mic, let me explain just a little bit what Kim Jong-un in his speech mentioned about military power. We are seeing all these soldiers marching and weaponries in the military parade right now. And Kim Jong-un's logic for arranging all this is that he wants to show the people and the world that for the past 5 years, since the 70th anniversary military parade, how much they have developed and how much modernized their weaponry has become. And he directly said that if you quote unquote, if you compare it to the 70th anniversary military parade, you will clearly see. So this is definitely something meant for the outside world to see as well. Another important, interesting thing that he mentioned about military power is that North Korea currently has the deterrent to control and manage any and all military threats that North Korea is facing. Kim Jong-un did not mention any specific countries like United States or South Korea or Japan or whatever. But this was very similar to what Kim Jong-un has been saying in the December plenum. Kim Jong-un said that whoever tries to attack us preemptively, we will do the same thing using our. If they notice it, they will use their strong military power to punish them. Although Kim Jong-un made a disclaimer that their improvement of military power is for defense purposes, and the war deterrent is for the self-protection, and that they will try as hard as they can not to use them preemptively. He mentioned nuclear threats as well, although also not referring to any specific countries. And he also mentioned that it seemed like he's trying to stay low-key a little bit about this. He said that the military power that North Korea is trying to develop, it's not for the sake of targeting anybody else, but it's just for the sake of deterrent. So all in all, to me, it seems that Kim Jong-un tried not to stay away from being overly provocative, it seems.
Anki, a few thoughts on that nuclear doctrine?
Yeah, so we've been trying to piece together North Korea's precise nuclear doctrine from a range of sources. There's a 2013 law that codifies a bunch of things about the conditions under which North Korea might use nuclear weapons. We have information on targeting from not only various missile tests, but other propaganda events, most famously in 2013, when North Korea released, quote, the map of death that showed a number of targets in the United States. But it's interesting to hear Kim Jong-un, rule out things like a preemptive strike. There has been some confusion in the past about North Korea potentially declaring, no first use, that it wouldn't use nuclear weapons first. I think that that's a little overstated. The North Koreans tend to emphasize a negative security assurance, so they claim that they will never use nuclear weapons against a state that doesn't have nuclear weapons and a state that isn't allied with a state that has nuclear weapons. So that's bad news for South Korea and Japan, who do benefit from American extended deterrence. But yeah, it's an interesting choice of language that I think, as Jungmin correctly says. Messages, that's a useful message internally, codifying that the treasured sword, the nuclear deterrent, remains capable and remains well honed, but it doesn't explicitly threaten the United States. That said, my interpretation of North Korea's doctrine, at least from what I've been able to piece together from a variety of sources, is that they do intend to, they reserve the right to use nuclear weapons first, and really the deterrent value of their nuclear weapons, as far as they perceive it, is very much wound up in that credible ability to deploy nuclear weapons first against whoever their adversaries might be, primarily to stall and degrade the ability by the United States and allies to conduct what North Korea fears will be an invasion of its territory.
Thanks. Now, Joost, you're a specialist of North Korean conventional military technologies, infantry, etc. Talk us through what you're seeing.
Yeah, that's right. What we're seeing is a very broad modernization of these would